is, what day is today? Wednesday? Wednesday,
December 30th.
December 30th, 2020, almost the end of the year. And I'm sitting here with a very good friend of mine from my Syracuse University days. I always struggle with saying her last name, so I'm gonna try.
Rhymes with Cartier.
Vivian Chambrier.
There you go. Chambrier.
Vivian. So Vivian is gonna do me the honor for you, my future generation, my children, for you to learn a little bit more about who I was in my teenage years, especially in college, because that's when Vivian knew me. So I'm gonna do a whole Q&A thing, and Vivian's kind enough to participate in the Q&A. So Vivian, what was, they know me as Miguel. My real name is Michael, but when I went to Syracuse, I changed my name to Miguel because I wanted to identify more with my Latinness. So if I say Miguel, you'll know why. So
I still call him Miguel.
You still call him Miguel. So if you had to describe Miguel in a sentence or two from college, not today, college, how would you define? How would you? And by the way, full disclosure, be blunt. You could say I was a pussy. You could say I was weak. You could say I was strong. You could say I was, although I was not a drug user, well, not tremendously at that time, but you know, you could be very blunt. My kids, I'm very honest with them.
Okay.
So be
Fair
blunt.
enough.
Fair enough.
No punches held, huh?
No punches held.
Okay.
Define Miguel in college, Miguel.
So I started Syracuse in the fall of 1997, and that would have been Miguel's fourth year.
1997.
Fall of 97.
Junior year. I was a junior.
He was a junior, and I was a freshman. And I met Miguel because everybody met Miguel. Se jodió la cosa.
No, that's fine. That's the speech was up.
Oh.
Really?
So I met Miguel because everybody meets Miguel.
I didn't know that. Well, okay.
You could always find Miguel either in the student center, in the center of everything, mostly wearing a poncho, his native poncho from Ecuador.
Yep. Represent.
Or in the center of a lucha meeting, Latino undergraduates creating history in America.
Yep.
Or promoting his fraternity's cultural events, or his fraternity's parties. You would also always find him supporting everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
If your event was dwindling and only had 3 people, one of them was definitely Miguel. I would say he was probably one of the most open people who sought to find common ground with everybody from all different walks of life. And I'm not bullshitting. That's just who he always was and who I think he still is. He's a people person. And I would venture to say that either of you, or maybe even both of you, are people persons also.
My daughter, Isabella.
If you get it from your dad.
Isabella, that's you, totally. Michael's more the introvert. Isabella's more of the...
She's your outgoing.
Yeah. What would you say is, so what would you say might have been a weakness? Something that, you know, that I grew from in my college years, something that you think is unique to me. And again, feel free to be an open book. I talked about depression on these videos to my kids. Like, I am very open with them. So a weakness.
One thing that always stood out to me that was glaring was that Miguel didn't work to his potential. Miguel is by far one of the most brilliant people I've ever known. And I'm not bullshitting. He's incredibly intelligent. If you ask anybody who's known him for a long time, they'll tell you the same, especially his frat brothers that he's close to. Miguel would sit in front of a piano, have never read music before, and just play a melody. Miguel had no credit and no driver's license and talked a car salesman into selling him a brand new off the lot
Hyundai,
mind you,
yeah.
It wasn't automatic, a stick. You didn't even know how to drive a stick.
I didn't even know how to drive a stick. Yeah.
I had a professor that taught anthropology, and I want to say she was from Mexico. She was a grad student working on a thesis and was teaching undergraduate courses. And she ultimately became a moderator for the first Latino dance troupe on campus called Raices, which Miguel also danced with.
And I co-founded, by the way.
And he co-founded and was a head choreographer with me, so we would tear the dance floor up.
Yes.
And I remember after he left Syracuse, she and I were having coffee and just, chatting, and she mentioned Miguel, and I said, oh, I know Miguel. Miguel's a friend of mine. And she said, that kid is brilliant. I just really wish he would get out of his own way. So I would say that Miguel didn't know how to get out of his own way. And I'm glad that over the years he's learned to do that. And I'm glad that over the years he's triumphed academically in ways that he failed unnecessarily. But you know what? No hay mal que por bien no venga. And all things work for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purposes.
Amen.
That's Romans 8:28.
So speaking of that, so while in Syracuse, I wasn't a practicing Christian. I actually was probably more of an agnostic atheist. Would you say that I was a male whore? Or was I...
I wouldn't know, man.
I know. No, but from what you observed, was I
From
like...
what I observed, when Miguel was with somebody, he was with that somebody, and he wound up being like completely head over heels over her. Even if the rest of us questioned it.
Yes, which may not be a good thing.
I think he loved being in love more so than being with the person.
Yes.
I think he loved the ideology of being with someone and having someone to be with. With that being said, notwithstanding, he was still very good to them from what I saw from a distance, because I minded my business.
I wasn't a male whore, in other words. I was a nice guy. I dated 2 people in college.
Okay.
Alexandra Bonanno, Suheli Saez, and Eva. She was some girl from Central America, but I didn't really date her. Like whatever. Anyway.
I have no idea who
but
that
the point is that I wasn't a male whore. Okay. Was I the type to get drunk and shit-faced?
I've never seen you completely out of your wits. We'd all drink, we'd all party, we'd all hang out, but I don't think I've ever seen you fall down crazy drunk. You have pulled many a drunk girl out of the bushes, though, and helped her back to her home. I wasn't one of them, but there was some girls in my year
And for the
who would
record,
get really twisted.
I took them to their home and that's
Yeah,
it.
he would make sure they got home okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
Was
Yes.
his goal in mind.
Yes, I wasn't taking advantage or anything like that. Okay. I would argue that there's a lot of people who don't like me. And I think my daughter Isabella struggles with this also, where there's a lot of people who don't like her.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know. I take ownership of where I could do things differently. But again, being a third party, an outsider, someone who knows me for over 20 years, what do you think what would you say to Isabella that maybe she could learn from, so that if she struggles with the same dynamic, where there are some people who love her and think that she's amazing, but there's also a segment of people who they just fucking hate her, right? What would you say? Well, what do you think is perhaps some of that?
Okay. Well, having spent absolutely no time with Isabella, I have to
She's like my mirror image.
I don't want to give platitudes, meaning I don't want to just give keep your chin up and be everybody's friend. That's a platitude. That's kind of empty talk. What I would say is be introspective. I challenge you to really look at yourself, your personality, your character, your motives from an outsider's point of view. Ask yourself, if I didn't know me and I was somebody else, would I want to be my friend? And really look at the parts of you that maybe aren't so great. And in all honesty, do a self-heart check. See if those parts of you can somehow be improved. Now, I'm not saying you should go people-pleasing. I'm saying that all of us have things about us that are not so great and sometimes yucky. And I put it on the eye. I can be very blunt. I can be abrasive, and sometimes I don't mean to be. It's just a byproduct of the household I grew up in. But not everybody is equipped to deal with that. And so in some instances, I can understand how I've come off as someone who may be unfeeling and cold or mean, and that's not me at all. So I've had to take a step back and look at my other self and say, self, did I like you off the bat if I didn't know you? And wherever there's a ding in your armor, so to speak, there's always room for growth there. Polish it. Fix that dent.
So bringing it back to Syracuse, I would say that while I was at Syracuse, although, you know, you said that everyone met Miguel, I always felt like I was an outsider. What's the question I'm looking for? I forgot the question, but I guess since I always felt like an outsider, did you view me as an outsider? Did you think I was an outsider? Like, so some background. So Vivian is like part of the crew that I was like, oh man, she's one of the super cool people. Like, you know, oh, like holy shit.
Perception is so funny.
But it's true, like you were part of a super cool crew, and for some reason, and this is me speaking against my insecurities. When I was younger, I still have insecurities, but when I was younger, I had a lot more insecurities. Did I come across as insecure when I was in college? Could you see that?
To a degree, but I'm also very introspective and I can read people easily. I was a psych major as well as economics for a long time.
Do you think other people saw my insecurity?
I wouldn't know. That I wouldn't be able to speak on. But I will say, to your point about being an outsider, you were part of a fraternity, which automatically made you part of a family. And you were the first person to teach me that frat is family. Because I thought it was weird. I'm like, yo, he talks about those guys. Like, he's like, oh, my brothers are coming. And I remember this. I had this conversation with someone in passing. He's like, he really calls them his brothers, like, for real. Like, I just found out he's an only child. And he's like, anytime he's like, my brothers, he means his frat brothers. So while you were grafted into a family, I did always notice that you were always sort of on your own and on your own tip. So to that degree, I can see how you could have felt like an outsider, but you were also very much part of many major movements at Syracuse during the 90s and early 2000s. Helping found brand new organizations, helping to improve existing organizations, rallying. You know, there were a number of things that you were heavily involved in, not at the outskirts, but an outsider feels like an outsider because their insides are on the outside, if that makes any sense.
I think
you could be in a room full of people and still feel lonely.
Any final things you would share with my kids? Lessons learned as a female, but also thinking about on my life, and you know, thinking that my kids someday, something that maybe only you would know because you knew me in my college years, something unique. I don't know. So, for example, I co-founded Raíces in Syracuse. That's something that they may not know. Something else that might be unique that, you know, you would only know from my college years.
College years.
Or anything, my personality.
I'll say this. In the years that I've known Miguel, and we've become friends more and more so over the years, we may not see each other frequently, but when we do, it's always genuine. We pick up right where we left off. Miguel is probably one of the most loyal friends you could have. If he's really in your corner, then he's really in your corner. Full disclosure, I was in a very serious relationship with one of his frat brothers, and it's how we became close. And I jokingly say to people that my relationship with his frat brother ended 20 years ago, but I kept all of his brothers. For the most part, right. They're my family.
You're like part of the chapter.
I am most definitely. You know, most of them won't say it on camera. They will definitely won't say it to anybody, but I know that in their heart of hearts.
You got pledged alongside of us.
I got a theta on my arm. Miguel is loyal. Miguel is honest. Miguel is genuine.
Sometimes to a fault.
Miguel is respectful. Miguel was never somebody that you had to worry about yourself around because he might try to take advantage or do something weird. That's just not his personality. And I know that he's been through a lot more trials and tribulations than maybe most people know. And I want to say that I believe that his wife has had her own set of trials and tribulations in this world.
Courtesy of me, unfortunately, as
Well,
well.
Probably even before you.
Before me as well, sure.
Life in general.
Yep, mhm.
And I want to say that God makes no mistakes. And in putting those two people together from two very different backgrounds in different countries was purposeful. And part of the purpose was to make two other people who came into this world, the two of you. You have insurmountable strength, ability, and chutzpah, my favorite Jewish word, running through your veins.
Amen.
You can literally overcome anything.
Hell yeah. I failed out of
You
college
gotta
for
know
crying
it,
out loud,
you gotta feel it, and you gotta walk in it.
and I made my way into Harvard.
That's right. That's right.
Kicked out.
So I would say that if anybody had an ultimate comeback kid story, it is most certainly Miguel. And I'm very proud of him, and
Thank you.
I'm blessed to call him family.
I don't want any more comeback stories. I'm good. Hopefully no more. Thank you, Viv. And hopefully you kids will learn something from that. Hopefully if my grandkids watch this, I'll end on a final note. Viv is an example. So Viv, I've always, you know, when I think about like women that I want my daughter to grow up to be like, you were always, you know, someone that I visualize. Of course, my wife is always, of course, my wife is always, you know, number one when it comes to the visualization. But, you know, as parents, we always think about our friends and people that we see in life. And the thing that I appreciate about you is your firmness, you're tough. You'll fuck somebody up, but at the same time be a lady. Like, dead ass. We're like all dressed to the nines right now, you know, having martinis, we're looking sharp. But God forbid somebody step up and cause trouble. We will create a problem.
I ain't never scared.
They will start it, we will finish it.
I ain't never scared.
If it will be right next to me,
Right next to
throwing
me.
punches. She won't be doing the little
I ain't never
uña
scared.
thing.
No.
She'll be like, where's my Vaseline?
What?
Took my
Tie
earrings
my
off.
hair up.
I think have we even been in fights together? I'm not sure.
No, me,
No.
me, Will, and Los got into it with some fights at the,
Okay,
in
all
the
right,
party.
good.
But
I'm not
that's 'cause
surprised.
they tried to jump them, and I just lost my mind and jumped in.
All right, checking off. I love you guys. Take care.